Evening church. Evening. It's good to know that we are living on the edge of heaven. Amen? What that means is that even though life can seem a little off and a little cumbersome sometimes, the reality is that what we are here to celebrate tonight is that Jesus came to give us an opportunity to have that hope, to have that truth in our lives, accept that truth, that we are living on that edge of heaven. We're living in a temporal state, living and desiring for a spiritual existence with God. What a beautiful opportunity. Tonight, if you're hanging with us for the first time, as I said earlier, we are glad that you are here. If you are a first-time guest or return person, we ask you to fill out the connection cards in that seat back in front of you. You can turn into that smiling face with Casey out there at Connection Central. And more important, just as important, that card, we want you to fill it out so that we can pray for you. Let us know how we can pray for you in this season. In this time with your family or someone you know. We take that seriously around here. Also want to welcome the people that are online. We have a number of people that watch online now with the services, and so we just want to welcome them into this place tonight. Church, tonight as we unpack this idea and this truth of joy, I want to tell you, as I said the last few weeks here on Sundays, is that I'm excited about Christmas this year more than I have been in the past, all right? My wife will tell you, I can sometimes be a Scrooge, okay? It's just kind of been part of who I am, unfortunately, right? And I tried to change that and figure out what is it about Christmas. In fact, I've been listening to Christmas music in the morning as I'm getting in the shower and out, and almost every day she goes, "You're still listening to Christmas music," all right? Like, she thought it's going to go away, all right? It's still there. Like, we're trying to instill some joy. I'm excited because this is the first year that we're going to travel back to Iowa and spend Christmas with our parents, right? With our family on Christmas Day. It's been probably a decade since we've been able to do that. We've even started opening some presents with the kids, beforehand, before we came tonight. The stockings, the things that you really don't need, parents, what I'm talking about, right? But you got to have them in there. My wife, we had a great opportunity there to put candy in there. But my daughter Gabrielle, she did something that was very interesting and we didn't know. With all her siblings, she put a piece of charcoal inside their stocking this year, right? 8-year-old and witty, right? As they're opening their stockings, the kids one by one pull it out and they're like, "Huh." Our daughter that's 2, she goes, "Yes!" She got 2. Like, she was excited, right? Didn't even know what that was. And Gabby puts that in the stocking. We're starting to have fun with Christmas already, even though it's Christmas Eve, we're getting ready. And so I'm excited about what Christmas is doing and what the opportunities are that's coming. I have to tell you, for some of us, though, when we think of joy in Christmas, we maybe think of a picture like this with these kids. Take a look at this. Look at that. Joy, right? If you ever had one got your kids' pictures taken at a photographer, that's pretty much what you're going to get, right? That's what you're going to get. Joy. So maybe for you, it's more like the lump of coal, right? Than it is the idea of excitement. But the reality is tonight we're going to look at this idea of joy and the fact that there is joy that's meant to come into our world. And if we look at joy the right way, we will have a good experience. A good experience not just in life, but our relationship with God. But also for those of us, we might not have tantrums like those little kids visibly with the joy letters, but inside we might be feeling that way. You see, as we look at this truth of joy into our world, we need to see and understand that we talked about last week here in this place of worship, that joy is given to us, true joy is given to us only by God. God's the provider of the joy into our lives if we accept it. And for joy, it's meant to be that when we experience that joy, that we live in harmony with God. Is that He produces the melody and we put our lives in line to live in harmony with Him, with His will. And therefore, joy begins living out and manifesting in our hearts and in our souls. See, the plan for joy that God has for our life is nothing that's new. In fact, it's something that we actually see in the Nativity story tonight. In fact, we see in Luke chapter 2, verse 10, it says this, as the angels are speaking to the shepherds on the hillside, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause" what? Great joy for all people. Right? Produce great joy. The message that they were bringing was going to bring great joy, at least the opportunity for great joy for all of mankind. See, the angel appears to these few lowly shepherds, right? Can you imagine what the headlines look like after this happens? I thought of a few. Maybe one of them is "Messiah is born, Father in question." Right? Father in question. Jesus' birth fulfills the question, "Were you born in a barn?" Right? Infant baby born, Herod has thousands killed. Right? That's the back end of the story. Or salvation is yours! Exclamation point, exclamation point. The headlines would probably look similar today, is that we would see that the joy was meant to be for the people, but people would view it in different ways, in different lights, and it would be tweeted differently and posted differently and put on in different ways in headlines. See, the angel continues to tell the shepherds about what's taking place here in Luke chapter 2, verse 11 and 12. It says this, "Today in the town of David, which is Bethlehem, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You'll find a baby wrapped in clothes, lying in a manger." Right? Isn't it interesting how God gives the description to the shepherds from the angels? Right? The way you're going to know it's a Messiah is if he's a baby laying in a manger in a barn. Right? That's what he's going to be. And let's translate that. In other words, what he says is that he's going to be wrapped in clothes, laying in a feeding trough. I envision the shepherds running into Bethlehem and going to the first stable and knocking and looking inside and saying, "A horse, a cow, a goat, no baby." Right? Next one, run to the next stable. There's a sheep and a dove and a pig, but no baby. But the next one they run to and they look inside. They see into this stable where babies had been born of animals before. Well, there's animals that are probably feeding, and it's dirty, and there's fecal matter from the animals around. But they look inside to the stable, they look inside, and in the manger they peer in, and they see a young mom that's there, a young teenage mom. And a dad named Joseph, and this baby, it's wrapped in clothes, and he's laying inside the manger. And they have this moment, and they go, "Aha! We found the Messiah." You see, as they look in and they see this Messiah, you know, many of you as parents can remember what that was like to see your babies for the very first time. Right? With our children, I remember we went to the doctor and you get to see the sonogram. Remember that? And you get to see your baby what really doesn't look like a baby, but you're excited it's a baby. Right? It doesn't look anything like a baby. And then you get to hear the heartbeat and you see the chambers of the heart. That becomes real. And then, guys, your wife's stomach gets bigger, and then the baby starts kicking and moving, which, let's just be fair, it looks more like Sigourney Weaver in Alien than it does something beautiful, right? But all the while, you're getting to know your kid, you're getting to know your child that's inside the womb, whether your mother or your father. But there comes that moment when the baby comes out, and he or she is there, and you put your eyes upon them physically for the very first time. It's totally different than hearing the story about the baby and seeing the baby. And there's some beautiful connection that begins to take place there. Grandparents, you're one and the same still, right? Many of you have gotten that call from your daughter or daughter-in-law that says, "Hey, we're heading to the hospital," right? And you want to go tell everyone in the world, but you're not allowed to, right? You're not allowed to tell anybody. And you wait, and the phone rings, and all of a sudden the phone rings, you answer it, and they say, "It's a boy," or "It's a girl." And you run to the hospital, and you know the baby's name, and you go to the nursery. You know where the glass is at? You walk up to the glass, and you look inside the glass, and you're looking for that baby with what? With that name, right? And all of a sudden, you get to hold your grandbaby for the very first time, and what you start thinking about is how you're going to spoil the junk out of that kid, right? As you think of all the candy that it can eat, even when mom and dad don't know, right? All the clothes you're going to buy that it doesn't even really need. The college education you're not going to set aside for. Instead, you're just going to buy a birthday present. Right? There's something about a new baby coming into life that comes into this world that parents and grandparents, if you've been around children, you know there's excitement. But even with the greatest of understanding of that excitement of our children coming into the world, can I say, even as beautiful it is, it doesn't hold a candle to what was taking place in the manger that day. Of when Jesus, the Messiah, was born of a virgin, and the shepherds gaze upon and see him for the very first time. See, during this Christmas weekend, I want to encourage you to take time to gaze upon that baby in the manger. And not just a baby, but the Messiah named Jesus. You can take the Gospel of Matthew and Luke and go home and read the Gospel story, but I want to encourage you not to just read out of the Gospels and hear the birth and read the story, but to get to know not of who Jesus just is, but why did he come? Why was he born? You see, the initial proclamation by that angel was one of the greatest had the greatest ramifications in all of history. is that there was going to be a Messiah born. It had been prophesied, and the shepherds get to see them and see him. See, that joy would be poured out upon the world because the Messiah was born. And the angel's words would give reason for why it is that his birth was important. Because the message was going to bring joy to all mankind. You see, during Jesus' ministry, just as his birth, there's some reasons why he came. Not to just have a good story that works good in picture books and gives us a good reason to come and worship. But he came with a purpose and a plan that was given by the Father. And one of the reasons Jesus came, and mark this down, is that Jesus came to seek and to save the lost. That's the joy that's wrapped in the gospel message. You see, we see this very point blank in Luke 19, verse 10. It says this, "For the Son of Man has came to seek and save the lost." It's not much to beat around the bush. It's just why he came. Why the baby in swaddling clothes was such a big deal is because they had heard this prophecy and knew why he was coming. See, as you remember the birth of Jesus, remember that baby in swaddling cloths will grow to save the world from a sin debt that we cannot pay. You see, as we see this, that is part of why he came. Not to stay in a manger for viewing pleasure, but rather to bridge the gap in relationship between us and his Father. So there's another reason this baby came in Jesus and grew in stature and in health, is that he came to give life. He came to give life. The scripture tells us this, is that the thief, Jesus says this in John 10:10, that the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy, but I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. In other words, Jesus says he's come to give you life that you can't imagine. He's come to give me life, an opportunity for life that I can't imagine. And he came to do that through the manger and through the virgin birth so that he could live out his ministry. So I want you to hear tonight, if it's your first time or whether you're a regular here, a life without the Savior is a half-lived life. A life without Jesus is a half-lived life. Satan wants to rob us of life, and Jesus came to give us life. Even the baby in the manger is a beautiful representation of life. Physically, but also a representation metaphorically for spiritually. Is that Jesus could have come into this world like a storm and came with lightning bolts and crashing and built a throne and sat for all to see, but instead he came in the form of a baby as in a meek way to represent what new life could look like. See, he came with humility in the form of a baby to show mankind that life was meant to be treasured. You see, it doesn't take much for us to celebrate life most of the time, right? How many of you are excited that the Chiefs game is going to be 60 degrees tomorrow? Some of you guys have tickets and you've been freezing, right? Or selling them for a really cheap cost, or giving them away to someone insane. You go sit outside. You see, it doesn't take much for us to be excited about life. Some of you are getting ready to do parties for Christmas and New Year's and celebrate life together with one another. Food and drinks and family and conversation. All of us are usually pretty good at celebrating life. But when it comes to celebrating life that Christ has given us spiritually, sometimes we kind of look like this picture. I think we have it. No, back up, back up. Back up. We don't have it. It's okay. It's okay. Back up. Those will be later. We're all right. We're good. Those are good life pictures. There we go. Just stay there. Because some of us look like we are the ones that just are humdrum, man. We sit around a table with coffee, looking at each other with pocket protectors, waiting for life to get better. When we're good at partying and setting the stage for celebrating life physically, we struggle in celebrating our life spiritually. You see, we need to remember that Jesus came to bring life to all mankind. And as we allow the joy to transform our hearts, we have to tell someone else about it. We see this happens with the shepherds in Luke. In Luke chapter 2, verse 17 and 18, it says this, "And when they had seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told them about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds had said to them." See, when the shepherds gazed upon the face of Jesus, it changed them just a little bit. And as they left Bethlehem and went running back, they told everyone what it was like for them to see the Messiah, to see that baby Jesus. I don't know if the people that they were talking to were excited because of, well, just the story. If they were excited because of fulfilled prophecy, or maybe they were excited because of the way they're excited the way the shepherds told the story. They were amazed. You see, I just wonder if the shepherds didn't say things like this, is that the angel came to talk to us. But then all of a sudden after he came, and then there was a whole host of angels came, and they sang, man, they sang loud. And we ran into Bethlehem, and we saw him, and we laughed, and guess what? It's true. It's really, really true. Some of you are invited into this place tonight because someone believes that that's true. I want you to know that. Is that they gazed upon the face of Jesus, and they believe what the truth he has to offer is true. The joy that he has to offer is true. And I want to let you know, and I want to be straight with you, the people that invited you in, they like you, right? They like you. But I want to tell you something else. They love you more to let you know that that face, that baby, that truth that they have seen is meant to be shared with others around them. You see, this last week, me and my wife received some pictures for the very first time that, I'll be honest with you, I never really thought about not having until they came this week. This last week, our son Merrick turned 5, okay? If you know our son Merrick, you have to understand he's completely boy and he's completely 5, okay? That means guns, knives, baseball, cartoons, in that order. That's what matters, right? And he has a weapon box, okay? A plastic weapon box. Well, my wife had posted on Facebook about celebrating his life of 5 years and birthday and trying to keep the walls painted and the woodwork not dinged and all those things, right? And all of a sudden, if you know our son and know the story, you understand why the pictures really matter something. But for those of you who maybe don't know the story, I want you to know that as my wife placed these pictures, placed this post on Facebook, Merrick's birth mother sent us pictures of him in the hospital when he's been born. Right? And here's the first picture. Look at that. If you know our son, it was just like that. Doesn't have the goop on his face, and he's bigger and faster now. Right? You see, and here's another picture. Same situation. You see, it wasn't much time after that Mary came to live with us and moved in with us. But we had never seen pictures like that before. I mean, we have pictures like that of our other children, you know, when you're in the hospital and you're gazing upon the child, but never pictures of him like that. And we got sent some of those, and I have to tell you, as I sat at my desk and I opened it up and started looking, I went, wow. Like, that is a gift, right? Like, what a gift to give on your son's birthday when he's 5. But I share that with you, and you say, well, why do you share these with me? I share this with you for this reason. That gift is as great as it is. I want you to hear this. Is hollow without the truth of Jesus. You see, because the way our son came into our lives, you have to understand, if it was without Jesus, it would not have happened. I believe that wholeheartedly. If it was not for Jesus, we would not have seen those pictures. If it was not for Jesus, there would be the hope and truth that allows for people involved in his life to see great change and extended family and truth and life come to those who had hurt him. You see, I share that with you tonight, is the birth of Jesus changed the world in a way that will never be the same. Whether it's the birth of children, whether it's the marriages, whether it's your Christmas gatherings with your in-laws, or it's going to be Christmas gatherings with your outlaws, you need to know that it's meant to be different because of the birth of Jesus. It's meant to be differently through the hope and the joy that was unleashed into the hearts willing to gaze upon the face and accept the gift of the Messiah. So I can give testimony to this. As I continue to grow in my understanding of the magnitude of the birth of Jesus, the more I understand that life without Jesus is a life half lived. You see, and I pray that my testimony can continue to grow to be like the shepherds. In Luke chapter 1, verse 20, it says this. It says, the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. I want you to hear that in this place tonight. If you've heard the story of Jesus and you go, you know what, I've seen it and it's been proclaimed and I get it and I believe it. We have a responsibility to praise and give glory to God. You see, the birth of Jesus changed the world. And I pray that we will allow our lives to be changed forever because the joy that comes through the birth of the life of the Messiah, Jesus Christ. As the band comes, as a church every week, we take communion, and we do this to remember the life that Christ lived, the sacrifice that he gave. See, it's hard to look at the birth of Jesus and not look at the death and resurrection of Jesus. It's hard to look at the resurrection of Jesus and not look at the birth of Jesus. And so here in this place, we're going to have an opportunity to take communion. And I just want to tell you, if you're like, I don't know if this is for me, it's okay, let it pass. Nobody's forcing you to take this. Right? But as the emblems have passed, we want to remember the sacrifice that Jesus made, the reason he came to this world to give joy. The joy would not be allowed to us. The relationship would not be open to God with the Father if it was not for his death and his resurrection. And so here I'm going to ask the people to get in space and get in place to pass these emblems. We're going to bring lives now. We're going to pray. I want you to know this, that Jesus is alive. And his birth brought joy into this world. And we have an awesome responsibility and privilege to live out a response to him. Let this be a time we live in remembrance and response to his birth, death, and resurrection as we take these emblems. Will you pray with me?